Hello, everybody, and welcome back to MJ Games. I am Michael, and welcome to Green Meadows Park, created by Great Phillip. Now, this is, I believe, the sixth or seventh park created by Great Phillip. But this park consists of 10 coasters, so this is my type of park right here. You got 10 coasters. It's built on the PS5, so it's only available to download on the PS5, but it's only at 86%. So there's definitely some more room to even grow if possible or add some extra details here and there. But this is a really, really well done park with a great lineup of coasters. And I love the work that Great Phillip's able to do in this game with his builds and his coaster design and styles. And I'm just really, really excited to check this one out. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started looking at the park. Here we are at the entrance to the park, and you could tell right away just by looking at the lettering in the entrance that this is a Great Phillip park because it's very similar to some of his other creations, as you've got a little walkway there. If I could make a suggestion, one thing I'd like to see in the future is a little bit more of a realistic parking lot style. Just because this kind of goes out this way. So that's, just I like that you put this here, but I would like to see a little bit more realistic on that aspect of it. But right away, I mean, the view of this coaster, I think, is this the wing coaster? No, it's not the wing coaster. That's definitely not. I'm trying to see what coaster model that is. It looks like the F25, the sit-down coaster, but with a lift hill instead of a launch. But that is a great view as you're kind of entering the park. I mean, just absolutely love that. It's been a bit since I've checked out one of his parks, and so the other links to the parks that I've spotlighted by him are in the description below. There's also one that Jasmine joined me on that she absolutely loved, and so right away, you got there's a little walkway down here. I like how there's elevation change right away if you go to the right. So normally in most of his parks, you've kind of got a straightaway walkway to the park, but I do like how this one you're given the option here, which is nice. And so definitely different style buildings, which is good. And so we've got a lot of coasters to get through in this park. One thing I'd suggest maybe is with these lights is actually pushing them up in the ceiling a little bit, because then they look like recessed lighting. That's just my suggestion, though. But, perfect timing to see the dive coaster over there. We have 10 coasters in this theme park. So I'll probably not end up walking around Flip Cam too much, other than at least initially, just because we got to make sure and try to get under an hour. But, of course, the best flat ride in the game. I mean, these are just phenomenal. So I don't even know which way to go first. Let's see. Maybe one other thing I can suggest too is, and I know sometimes it's piece count and running out of stuff, so I don't know if we're exactly at 100. I can't remember off the top of my head, but placing some kind of curbing down, custom curbing, taking that thick wooden beam. That would just be one small suggestion. So let's head back this way. Let's head to this Gerstlauer coaster, which I love the look of this first drop. And then you've got a wooden coaster right there in the background. So this slight elevation change is really, really nice. Man, you just get good views of everything in this park. Wow. This is my type of park right here. 10 coasters. Woo. Really, really excited. So we got a restaurant over here. We got a couple of restaurants. Well, one that looks like can guests access it. Oh yeah, perfect. Okay, so that's an actual restaurant. Okay. But I like the detailing on the building. I like the colors that's using of different building pieces. So that's really good. And then let's go this way. Or is that the exit? It's the exit to the coaster. So where is the entrance to the Gerstlauer coaster? That's what we're trying to find. Oh, here we go. Okay. Maybe put up a sign or something. It's just kind of easy to miss that. So let's just skip the line because I'll actually do Fast Pass. Yeah, the views are just awesome. I think I said that right when there are about 10 coasters in this park. So for people who say that I make a lot of coasters, so does Great Philip, and I love it. So if we take a quick look at the stats, and we can pause this, then hop on the coaster, it's called Drops. It's the Typhoon Bar Heist. 93 feet biggest drop. G-forces look good. 4 inversions, 1 airtime hill. So I'll talk to you after the ride. That was Drops, and I really liked it. I think it had a lot of kind of unique elements. It's on a smaller scale. And so I definitely I think it was right here where you kind of come up here and then you do kind of an overbank turn, but you're still staying elevated above the ground instead of kind of going back to the ground with the drops. So I thought that was cool. Really enjoyed that. Maybe one area that needed just a little bit of smoothing. I think you probably could have made that first loop a little bit larger, just for the sake of it not being too quick. Like it might go through that first part a little bit quick. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, like maybe just a little bit larger of a loop, but I mean, at the end of the day, that is a really, really good coaster. Love the fencing around, the viewpoints of it. So really, really enjoyed that coaster. And one thing I wanted to point out too, as I was talking about before, is kind of over in this area because it's only at 86%. So that's one thing I wanted to check, and that is really crazy that this whole thing's only at 86%. So let's see. So if we go to thick wooden beam, so one thing I like doing is let me get off this mode, and then I'll color it like a silver or kind of a darker gray or something. And then I'll just kind of move it around. And then this gives off a good kind of border. And because a lot of times at theme parks, you do see a lot of these kind of curbs that are a little bit elevated, and then you've got the grass right behind it. So if you do something like that, I mean, it kind of creates that extra kind of boundary, and I think just adds a little bit more to the park. So that's just my one suggestion I have. If we kind of do a quick overview of this area, and then we'll take a ride on this wooden coaster. And I mean, look at the park. This is massive. A massive, massive park, which is right up my alley. You got a lot of coasters. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep, 10 coasters. That's incredible. So now if we look here at the wooden coaster, and it looks like when you go off this exit, you've got a building here. Okay, so that's a staff building. Yeah, so the one thing I would add here is I would add some, like if you take I would probably take this fencing here, and I would just I might have it kind of line up here with the path at first, and then have it kind of go this way. And so that's just my suggestion on one thing that I might, oops. One thing that I might do to kind of prevent the guests from, in theory, walking over to where that coaster is. But yeah, so enough of me pointing that out as we look. Ooh, I love this building. I love that building, using the that painted wood plank there on the end. That is a really cool building, and using these kind of custom pieces as kind of that area where the guests can't walk on, but you want it to be different than grass. I think that looks really good. Nice station. Love the beams going across. You got the fencing going all the way around too. So this is called Wooden Adventure. It's a gnarler. Oh, everything's green. That's great. G-forces look good. 66 feet is the biggest drop. So let's go ahead and take a ride on the Wooden Adventure. That is a great, great coaster. And so let's head on to the next part. Hop back in flip cam mode, just maybe as we're going through different kind of sections of the park using flip cam mode. And this is the last time I'll say it, but I think this is another area where using some kind of custom curbing other than the one the game adds just kind of adds to the level of detail, because you've got a lot of detail in this park. But that's one thing I'm always trying to work on too, is how can I... Oh, is that the Larson Looper or something? I forget what those are called. Never been on one of those, never will. That I know right away, that's going to get me sick. But, you know, just adding all those little extra layers of detail really adds to the park. And, ooh, I love this food place. Kind of reminds me of something I made in, not Wild Winds, but Three Towers Park. But this is really well done. You got an ATM area, you got food court, you got restrooms. And once again, I love this kind of using this on the side, maybe putting down like a little beam or something that's kind of like a border separating the two. Different pathing would be good. But oh, I love the view of that. What looks like probably a launch coaster. And then we've got another coaster over here, man. I don't even know where to go in this park. Like I said before, we're just going to keep heading right, and we'll eventually work our way back. Oh, this building's awesome. Good job mixing pieces. And so that's one thing I'm noticing here, too, is you're adding more buildings to the park, which is nice, which is what I'm always trying to think about doing. You got nice foliage, kind of outlining the edges here. And got a nice flat ride there. Got another, what looks like another flat ride over here. And now maybe one thing I'd say too that I've learned is, as much as we love having lots of coasters in this park, when you have a lot of rides, the park almost feels empty because everybody's kind of waiting in the queues. Since we can only have 4,000 guests, but we got another nice kind of food stall over here with a lot of different food options. Yeah, just a lot of buildings. And one thing too that you're doing that I've started doing as well is not every building is accessible, and that's okay. Like, it's just to kind of add and make the park feel more full. Like this, I love this building. Oh, it is accessible. What's in there? Okay, restrooms. So we got some food shops, a lot of food options over here. And then we got Torque. So good job using those signs, and you've got the signs supported, which is nice. Why is nobody wanting to ride Torque? Torque looks awesome. So this one might need to be one at night. No, never mind. There aren't any other lights. Oh, this is one of those coasters. Okay, so this is almost like a stealth at Alton Towers, or a mini version of like Top Thrill Dragster or something. So it's the hydraulic launch, and let's just go ahead and take a ride on the coaster. So really well done, and you know, it's kind of a mini version. Like, I think that's about 200 feet tall. But then I like how you get views of this coaster that's right beside it as well. So I think it's well done, good foliage. And so now looks what we got over here. This is a staff building. Okay, so that's where the exit to the coaster is at. And see here, you don't really need the borders because you kind of tried to line it somewhat with flowers and stuff. But looks good. So if we look at kind of the plaza area here, you know, big plaza. So that's one thing too that you're using is wide paths, which maybe sometimes don't look the most realistic, but in terms of us building the game, it gives us the best opportunity to have a larger park. And so let's, oh, there we go. Look at that dive coaster. Looks phenomenal. Looks like we got another nice building here. Okay, so another food shop. There we go. So if we head this way, we got 2 more coasters in this kind of area. Like I said, I'll be hopping in and out of flip cam mode sometimes when I feel it's worth it. Now, one thing I like here is that you made a small queue, because that ride never really gets a long queue. Oh, I like that coloring. That's different. Looks good. So you're definitely varying up your building styles. There's not necessarily a theming aspect to it, but it's kind of varying stuff up, which is nice. So then we've got here. So one thing I'd maybe say too is kind of putting signs. It doesn't have to be anything detailed. You could just put 2 coaster support post up and then one of the signs that are given to you in game and just kind of name it, which would be nice. So then here, good job with the station, good job with the beams. And one thing is I couldn't really show you before I was in flip cam mode. When I talk about, why does it do that? Okay, there we go. So when I was talking about maybe moving this up just a bit, one thing you could do is, so if you put it up like that, then it looks like recessed lighting. So that's just one small suggestion. So now this is called Forest Spin. It's the interdimensional coaster or the max spinning coaster. G-forces look good. 0 inversions, airtime count 4. So I'll talk to you after we take a ride on Forest Spin. That was awesome, and I don't know if you noticed, but right as we went here, this coaster went over the top of it. So that is really, really cool. Now, one thing I didn't notice here is we've got this whole extra building. Okay, so it just looks like it'd probably be like a maintenance building or something that was built out. But yeah, this is a really good max spinning coaster like this. The spinning looked to be really well done, didn't look to be overdone. You had some nice kind of turns. So I especially like the kind of quick, snappy turns here. So I think that was really, really well done. And I really enjoyed that. It might be my favorite coaster in the park so far, out of the ones we've ridden. But we still have a lot of coasters to go on, because we've been on, oh my gosh, we've only been on 4 coasters. Oh, this is so crazy. This is a massive park. So over here, and once again, like I said, good job with the buildings. Kind of in the thing too, when you build a lot of buildings, is it takes up space, and it makes the park look more full. Because if you look at Google Maps and look at theme parks, I mean, there's so many buildings in each theme park, and I love this covering here. I think that is really good done, especially how the beams are angled diagonally too, which is nice for the support beams. So it looks like we got is this a flying or an invert? I guess we'll find out in a second. So different station, looks nice. Okay, so this is an invert coaster. And I love using these lights in the station because they just give off some really good lighting. So for anybody who hasn't seen, now I would say probably you could probably cut the number that's used in half, but it does give off good lighting, and they look like good lights instead of some of the ones that don't necessarily look like good lights and don't give off good lighting. G-forces are good. 6 inversions. Okay, let's see, 139 feet. So let's take a ride on Shock. So that was Shock, and it probably did give some people a shock with how intense it is. No, I'm just kidding. I like being cheesy sometimes. But this first drop kind of reminded me a little bit of, I think Raptor's a little bit like this, where it kind of curves a little bit, straightens out, and then has the major first drop. But I really liked it. I think maybe one more pass of smoothing could have been used because there are a couple parts that were a little bit rattly, but I think the layout is phenomenal. I think the only thing on the layout is this end part kind of seemed a little bit rushed, but it's definitely an intense invert, and I really liked it. That's my favorite of the park so far. Just because that is a very, very intense coaster. It's well done. It's situated here at the back of the park. I mean, the views of it are great. Yeah, really, really like that. Looked really, really good. Now, so I think we've looked at this plaza area. Yeah, so there's the plaza for that area. And now we are halfway done with the coasters. So what is your favorite coaster through this halfway point? And you know what? We're going to get back in flip cam mode for this. All right, there we go. And I wanted to get in flip cam mode to kind of zoom in on that RMC. That's what it looks like. And then we've got the huge, huge dive coaster. And it looks like we got a variety of coasters left too. So we've got a launch, we got a dive coaster, we got an RMC, we got, well, not necessarily a hyper, but it's like right there at the top of that. I don't think that'd necessarily be a hyper, but it's given those type of vibes. And then we got a kids coaster, but oh, that is amazing views right there. That might be the thumbnail. We'll see. Okay, we gotta watch this coaster as it goes down. I mean, these are great, great views for the guest. Yeah, that is awesome. And then I love this protective fencing area as well. I think this part is really, really well done. And so this is kind of one of the back portions of the park is this dive coaster. Looks like it's got a pretty long layout, which is awesome because I wish more dive coasters were longer. And then the sundial, man, look at that view right there. Oops, hold on. Oh, never mind, I can't zoom in enough. But just seeing the sundial with that dive coaster in the background looks amazing. So that is a very, very good kind of viewpoint. Oh, and we got a couple of vending machine areas, and I like the little architectural design around it, which looks nice. So let's go ahead and take a ride on whatever this dive coaster is called. There we go. So this is called Diver. Makes sense. If you look at the stats, everything's all green, which is great. 187 feet. Vertical G-force is a little bit higher, but all right, I know I keep saying it every time, but that one is my favorite coaster of the park, and I don't think it's even close. That little speed hill is awesome at first. I wish dive coasters kind of had that element because that give you some amazing airtime. And then the pace throughout this is so intense. And usually, I mean, it's still very graceful. Usually dive coasters are pretty graceful with all their elements. Like, they don't seem like they actually go that fast. But this one is really, really keeping up a good pace. And then this element here at the end, that little zero G roll is awesome and so well done. Just that's awesome. I love this coaster. So Diver is my favorite of the park so far. And as I said before, the view you get, like right here, is just absolutely amazing. Of, you know, that frisbee ride and then that dive coaster drop, really, really cool. Once again, we got a nice big building. So now we're heading over to this area. Like that architecture design there. Once again, I think these are my favorite buildings in the park that you have. The ones that, even though you've copied and pasted them, you've just kind of colored the wall piece and made it different, because I think there's like 3 of these in the park. I love them. I think they're great. So that would be a staff building over there. So this is a very different style, and I like it. It's a very kind of more tropical, not necessarily tropical, but more kind of Hispanic style, in my opinion, as it looks really good. Then we've got this building over here called Eatsy, so that'd be like an eatery, somewhere to grab some food. And then we've got kind of this nice gateway into, yeah, so you've done some of this of placing kind of borders, kind of sectioning off the areas. And there we go. That looks like an awesome, awesome RMC. So I wonder what happened with the supports there. We use the food court building here, which is nice. I think there's a building in Cedar Point that's similar to this as well. But that looks really, really good. Nice, kind of massive station. Good gosh, that station is really high off the ground. But I think you've masked it really well because you've got this building kind of beneath it, which looks nice. So here we are in the queue. Yeah, I mean, this RMC looks awesome. So let's take a look at the stats, shall we? Wow, really high, 7.53. G-forces look good, 155 feet. So what was the name of it? Star Steel. So let's go ahead and take a ride on the coaster, and I will talk to you afterwards. That is the RMC, and that was really, really good. The only thing is this zero G roll, because you use the in-game one and because of the how much smaller it is than the actual drop when it's pretty close to the front of the like the beginning of the ride, it kind of whips through it a little bit too quick. But I love this first drop as it kind of has a very unique kind of turn to it as it gets to the top of the lift hill. But I think that is really cool. It's almost like Iron Rattler in a way. So I think that was really good, and I love the layout, especially the second half too. I think this was really, really well done. And you've got some nice wave turns. So absolutely loved that coaster. I want to see what coaster type is this one. Yeah, that's the F25, definitely. But it's got a lift hill instead of a launch, so that's cool. So we kind of look at an aerial view of these, what we've looked at so far. So you've definitely got some nice kind of circular kind of plazas here. And do you have fencing around that one? Oh, yeah, you do. Now that was probably very tedious to do. Needless to say. So nice buildings. So I think we are down to 3 coasters left. And you've got a sign for this one. It's called Stroke. I like that sign. I like the kind of supports for it too. It's different, but it looks cool. Oh, that station looks awesome. I mean, this is my favorite station I've seen you make. This is very unique. It's very different, but it looks super, super cool. Looks kind of modern. And so this is the Copperhead Strike coaster. Everything's all green, which is great. Lateral G-force is definitely a little bit high. Biggest drop 58 feet. Number of inversions 1. Max speed is 50 miles per hour. So it looks like a little bit more of the family variety for a launch coaster. So I'll talk to you after we take a ride on Stroke. Definitely like that coaster. I think it's a lot of fun. I think the launch was perfect. I didn't feel like there's really any issues with the laterals. But yeah, really good coaster, and loved kind of the layout and where it's at and where it's positioned. Kind of goes over water a little bit. As I said before, love the station. I think that's probably my second favorite coaster in the park. Um, I think maybe right there with the laterals. It kind of turns pretty quick. But yeah, this is a really good coaster. That'd be a lot of fun to ride in real life. And depending on when this is being released, because I'm filming this a couple weeks before I go, but we got a lot of videos filmed ahead of time. Jasmine and I are going to Carowinds a little bit after the 4th of July, so I'm going to get to ride Copperhead Strike for the first time, and I'm really excited about it. Once again, love that building. But of course, I'm more excited for Fury. And then I'm excited for Intimidator as well, just because I know people call it Intimidator, but love me a good RMC hyper. Or not RMC, B&M hyper. So I like this building. Eatsy. And so that's one thing you've kind of trademarked on a lot of your parks is using kind of the eatery and some of those terms and stuff like that. So Dragon Adventure. Love the sign here. I think that's really well done. And how you kind of place the other sign a little bit into the letters. I think that's really nice. So let's go ahead and, man, this is like, wow, this is like the ride that's got the longest wait. So let's go ahead and pause this. And what we'll do real quick is we'll take a ride on this coaster, and then right away we'll hop onto a ride on Force. and then I'll kind of talk to you about it afterwards. But if we look at force real quick, we can look at these stats. Get the lateral G-forces, verticals, everything's really good there, 112 feet. Yeah, so let's go ahead and take a ride on these two coasters. So those were the last two coasters in the park, and I now know what it's like when somebody spotlights one of my parks and they've got to ride 10 coasters. No, I'm just kidding. This is great. I think the kids coaster was good. It's pretty quick for a kids coaster, but I think that's probably why the excitement's up there. And the little bit of theming around it is nice. But this B&M coaster is awesome. Absolutely awesome. Loved it. And it's not that tall of a coaster, but you guys had some really good airtime hills, some kind of wave turns. So I think that was really, really nice. And so if we do a quick overview at night, and then I'll kind of wrap up the video. So everything looks lit up nicely. Trying to light up the coasters and stuff. So that looks really, really good. Maybe this part's a little bit oversaturated, but overall everything looks well lit up at night. But it's definitely one that I don't think is made intentionally to be a night park. But yeah, I mean, I love this park. I love the coasters. As I said, there's a couple things here and there that I would kind of work on, like doing custom. I know it takes a long time, but doing some custom curbing, making sure that you've think about the logistics of all your coasters, how you've got all of them blocked off from guest access. As in theory, the guest could just walk right along this path and walk up underneath the coaster here, and to this part here where the coaster comes close to the ground, walk up and try to climb up, right? So you don't want that to happen. So you want to make sure that somehow all your coasters are kind of blocked off, and this is all from a realism aspect. And the reason I'm saying this is because I think you try to get realism and you do a good job of having a lot of that. So that's why I'm giving that kind of advice. And I like how the supports look here, even though those aren't custom, those are in-game ones. I think it looks kind of cool. But yeah, so that's just one thing I would kind of try to keep in mind is, always looking at how can you kind of add those realism pieces to it. Like here you add the custom fencing and stuff, which is nice. And that is a great view. Wow. So to wrap this up, let me kind of list the coasters in terms of my least to favorite, which I like them all in the park. But my least favorite one would probably be... Oof. Good gosh, I don't know. Probably this kid's coaster. So that would be my 10th. My 9th would be this Gerstlauer. And then 8th would probably be the Intamin Accelerator. Just because there's not much to that. But and then this one would be 7th. And then the B&M Invert would be 6th. Then I think I did that right. Yeah, my bad. And then I actually like this Mac Extreme coaster a little bit more the more I think about it. So that would be my 5th favorite coaster. And then my 4th favorite would probably be the RMC. And then we've got my third favorite would be this launch coaster. This B&M would be my second favorite. My favorite coaster was the B&M dive coaster. So that's how I'd rank my coasters in the park. I think you did a very good job with it. If you look at this map, you definitely used a lot of the map. And I hope this is okay with me saying one thing I like to see too in a future park is, kind of maybe starting to add more backstage stuff because you do such a good job with a lot of the other areas, kind of trying to integrate that aspect into it. And one thing, as I was talking about earlier, is we see we've got almost 4,000 guests. Is if we look at the rides in the parks, we got 10 coasters, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So you got 13 flat rides. 14 actually. So that's 24 rides plus the amount of stalls you have. I just personally would cut down on the amount of stalls because you can make it look like there's a stall there without there actually being one. And that would not only take down the percentage some, but it's also going to make it look more realistic, like guests are actually waiting in line. So that's one thing I have learned is when you have too many rides in the park almost feels empty because you've got so many guests waiting in lines instead of actually walking around and make it feel more lived in. So that's one reason too why I've decided to not make 10 coasters again at park, maybe 8. No, I think the collab park Jasmine I'm going to be working on is going to have 5, 6 tops. Um, but yeah, so as I said before, thank you guys so much for all your support and for watching. So make sure to check out the other links if you want to see the other amazing parks that Great Philip has made. And also make sure to click on the link so you can download this yourself on the workshop. And I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.